The patient and the protector. Alex Mercer winced as consciousness slowly returned, each breath sending sharp pains through his chest. His eyelids felt heavy, refusing to open fully against the soft blue light filling the room. The last thing he remembered was the explosion, the hull breach on his exploration vessel, as an unexpected meteor shower tore through the ship's shields. He barely made it to the escape pod. Movement detected. Patient is regaining consciousness, a melodic voice announced. Alex forced his eyes open and found himself staring into the most unusual face he'd ever seen. Hovering above him was a woman. At least he thought it was a woman, with iridescent lavender skin that seemed to shimmer under the medical bay lights. Her eyes were large almond-shaped pools of silver with no visible pupils, and delicate ridges ran from her temples down her neck, pulsing with a soft blue light. "Where?" Alex's voice came out as a dry rasp. "You are aboard the Celestial Mercy, an interspecies medical station orbiting Proxima Centauri," the alien woman said, her voice carrying an unusual harmonic quality. "I am Mira, your assigned medical attendant. You suffered significant trauma, but your vitals have stabilized." Alex tried to sit up, but found himself gently restrained by an energy field. "Please remain still. Your human physiology requires time to heal," Mira said, placing a six-fingered hand on a control panel. "Your vessel was destroyed. You were the only survivor recovered." The news hit Alex like a physical blow. The Horizon had carried a crew of 12, all researchers on humanity's most ambitious deep space expedition. Now they were gone, and he was stranded at an alien medical facility light years from Earth. "How long?" he managed to ask. "You have been unconscious for 17 solar cycles," Nera replied. "Your body responded unusually well to our regenerative treatments. Most species would require twice this time." Over the following days, Alex learned more about his situation. The Celestial Mercy was a neutral zone medical station established by the Galactic Accord, staffed by various species specializing in xenobiology. Nera belonged to a race called the Viraxians, renowned throughout the galaxy for their medical expertise and diplomatic neutrality. As his strength returned, Alex noticed peculiarities in Nera's behavior. She remained his primary caretaker, working extended shifts that seemed unusual even for alien medical standards. When other staff approached his bed, she would position herself between them and Alex, her ridges pulsing more intensely. "Your people, the Viraxians," Alex asked one day as Nera adjusted his treatment regimen. "You're all medical specialists." Nera's movements paused briefly. "That is a common misconception. We are known for our healing abilities, yes, but that is only one aspect of our culture. What are the others?" Alex pressed, genuinely curious. "We are protectors," she said simply, her silver eyes fixing on him with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. "In ancient times, before we joined the Galactic Accord, we were warriors. Now we channel that instinct into healing and safeguarding others." 2 weeks after regaining consciousness, Alex was permitted to leave his bed. His muscles had atrophied less than expected, another peculiarity that Nera documented with increasing interest. She guided him through the medical station, her hand always close to his arm, ready to steady him if needed. The station was a marvel of interspecies cooperation. Beings of all shapes and sizes moved through its curved corridors. Some floated in containment fields, others shuffled on multiple limbs, and a few seemed to phase in and out of visible existence. Yet despite this diversity, Alex couldn't help noticing how other aliens reacted to Nera, with respectful distance and what appeared to be caution. "The staff seems wary of you," Alex observed during a therapy session in the station's arboretum. Nera's ridges flickered briefly. "Viraxians are respected for our abilities. It feels more like they're afraid," Alex countered. Nera focused on adjusting the resistance settings of his therapy equipment. "Your perceptions are more accurate than I anticipated. Yes, many species find certain aspects of Viraxian biology unsettling. Before Alex could ask for clarification, an alarm blared through the station. Nera's head snapped up, her ridges flaring bright blue. "What's happening?" Alex asked, but Nera was already guiding him toward the exit with surprising strength. "Security breach in Sector 7, she said, her voice lower and more commanding than he'd ever heard it. "We must return to medical quarters immediately." As they hurried through the corridor, another alien, a bulky, reptilian being in medical attire, approached them. "Nera, we need assistance with evacuation protocols." "I am attending to my patient," Nera interrupted, her body language suddenly shifting. She seemed taller somehow, her shoulders squared, and the ridges along her neck pulsed with intense blue light. The reptilian being took a step back, raising its hands in a placating gesture. "Understood. My apologies for the intrusion." As they continued toward the medical bay, Alex noticed other staff giving them a wide berth. "Nera, what's going on? You're acting different." They reached his private room, and Nera sealed the door behind them. When she turned to face him, her silver eyes had darkened to a stormy gray. "I must inform you of something significant, Alex Mercer," she said, her voice carrying that strange harmonic quality again, but deeper, more resonant. "Since you came under my care, I have experienced physiological changes that are rare among my kind." "What kind of changes?" Alex asked, sensing they were approaching the heart of the mystery. "Viraxians have evolved as both healers and warriors because, for us, these instincts are intertwined," she explained. "When we form a strong connection to a patient, particularly one who demonstrates unusual resilience or compatibility, it can trigger what we call the guardian response." Alex sat on the edge of his bed, watching as Nera paced the room with predatory grace he'd never seen in her before. "This response was evolutionarily advantageous on our homeworld, where recovery from injury made individuals vulnerable to predators," she continued. "Certain healers would develop protective bonds with those under their care. And you've developed this bond with me?" Alex asked, his mouth suddenly dry. Nera stopped pacing and faced him directly. "Yes, your remarkable recovery rate indicates a rare biological compatibility. My body has recognized this and responded accordingly." "So what does that mean exactly?" The lights in the room dimmed briefly as the station's security systems engaged. Through the window, Alex could see ships approaching, sleek, predatory vessels that definitely weren't medical transports. Nera's gaze followed his. Her ridges pulsed bright blue, and for the first time, Alex noticed subtle changes in her appearance. Her fingers appeared slightly longer, with what looked like retractable claws, and the ridges on her neck had extended further across her shoulders. "It means, Alex Mercer," she said, her voice taking on a resonance that seemed to vibrate in his chest, "that I have claimed you as mine to protect. And it appears I will need to demonstrate that claim imminently." The security alarm blared again, louder this time. Nera moved to a panel on the wall and pressed her hand against it. A hidden compartment slid open, revealing what was unmistakably a weapon, sleek and alien in design, but a weapon nonetheless. "Wait," Alex said, rising from the bed. "You're a medical specialist. Why do you have?" "I told you," Nera replied, checking the weapon with practiced efficiency. "Viraxians are healers and warriors, and right now, you need the warrior. The claim and the challenge." The medical station shuddered as the first impacts hit the outer defensive shields. Alex steadied himself against the wall, watching as Nera transformed before his eyes. Her movements became fluid and predatory, her medical uniform reconfiguring at her touch to reveal armor-like reinforcements beneath. "Those ships," Alex said, gesturing toward the viewport. "Who are they?" "Crax Raiders," Nera replied, her voice carrying that deep resonance that seemed to bypass his ears and vibrate directly in his chest. "Scavengers who prey on medical stations and refugee transports. They target vulnerable patients, particularly unique specimens." "Specimens," Alex repeated, a chill running down his spine. Nera's silvery eyes met his. "You are the only human ever treated at this facility, Alex. Humans are not part of the Galactic Accord. Your physiology, your DNA, it would fetch an immense price in certain markets." The implication struck Alex like a physical blow. "They're here for me. Possibly, or for any number of rare patients currently in treatment." Nera moved to the door, her hand hovering over the control panel. "I must help defend the station, but my primary duty is to you." "I'm not helpless," Alex insisted, pushing himself fully upright despite the ache in his healing bones. "I was a security specialist before joining the exploration course. If you have another weapon..." Nera's ridges pulsed with surprise. "You are a warrior as well as an explorer." "I wouldn't go that far, but I can handle myself in a fight." For the first time since he'd known her, something like a smile curved Nera's lips. She returned to the hidden compartment and withdrew a smaller weapon. "This is calibrated for defensive use only. It will incapacitate rather than kill." Alex took the weapon, familiarizing himself with its unusual balance. Better than nothing. Another impact rocked the station, this one closer. The lights flickered and emergency illumination activated along the floors. A voice echoed through the communication system, a language Alex didn't understand, but the urgent tone was universal. "They've breached the outer defenses," Nera translated. "Security teams are engaging in sectors 3 and 5, but they're understaffed." "What's the plan?" Alex asked, falling naturally into mission mode. Nera studied him, her ridges pulsing in what he now recognized as thoughtful consideration. "The safest course would be evacuating you to an escape vessel. However, that leaves everyone else at risk." Alex finished for her. "Not acceptable." "Your concern for others is unexpected," Nera said. "Most species prioritize self-preservation." Alex shrugged. "Humans can be selfish too, but we also know strength in numbers. If these raiders are after vulnerable patients, someone needs to protect them." Nera's ridges brightened. "This is why my body responded to you. You understand the protector's instinct." The door to their room slid open suddenly, revealing the reptilian medical officer Alex had seen earlier. The alien scales were flared in distress. "The raiders have targeted the critical care ward," the officer reported. "Security cannot hold them." Nera nodded sharply. "We will assist." She turned to Alex. "The critical ward contains patients who cannot be moved, including 3 juvenile Mexterians whose metabolic cycles are suspended for treatment. Children," Alex translated grimly. "Lead the way." Moving through the station's corridors was like navigating a ship in storm. Emergency barriers had deployed at strategic junctions, forcing them to take alternative routes. Twice they encountered other staff members herding patients towards secure areas. Nera exchanged rapid words with them in the common galactic language before pressing forward. They were nearing the critical care ward when they encountered the first raiders. 3 hulking figures in sealed armor turned a corner ahead of them, weapon mounts humming with energy. Before Alex could react, Nera had pushed him behind her and fired her weapon in one fluid motion. The leading raider dropped immediately, but the other 2 returned fire. Nera moved with astonishing speed, her body twisting in ways that seemed impossible as she evaded energy blasts. Alex pressed himself against the wall, then leaned out to fire his own weapon. His shot went wide, but it distracted one raider long enough for Nera to close the distance and engage in close combat. Alex watched in awe as she moved. Her previously gentle, healer's hands now wielded retractable claws that sliced through the raider's armor at joint points. Her entire body seemed weaponized, ridges extended into protective plates, and even her voice had become a weapon, emitting frequencies that disrupted the raiders' communications. The skirmish ended quickly, with all 3 raiders incapacitated. Nera turned back to Alex, her breathing only slightly elevated despite the intense exertion. "You fight remarkably well," Alex said, impressed and slightly unnerved. This is only a fraction of Viraxian combat capability, Nira replied. Come. We must reach the critical ward before reinforcements arrive. They continued through the station, encountering 2 more groups of raiders. Each time, Nira engaged them with deadly efficiency, while Alex provided supporting fire. His aim improved as he adjusted to the alien weapon, and during the second encounter, he successfully incapacitated a raider about to flank Nira. Well struck, she called, her ridges pulsing with what he now recognized as approval. They reached the critical care ward to find its entrance sealed but showing signs of forced entry attempts. Inside, medical staff had barricaded themselves with the immobile patients. Through the reinforced viewport, Alex could see 3 small containment pods glowing with pale green light, the juvenile Mexterians Nira had mentioned. The raiders will return with reinforcements, Nira assessed, examining the damaged door mechanism. This entrance will not hold against concentrated assault. Alex studied their surroundings, mind racing through tactical options. What about the environmental controls? Can we access them from here? Nira's head tilted in curiosity. Yes, but how would that help? These raiders, they're in sealed armor, right? That usually means they have atmospheric requirements, different from the station's standard environment. Understanding dawned in Nira's silver eyes. You suggest altering the atmospheric composition to disadvantage them. Exactly. Can you access the system? Nira moved to a nearby control panel. I can, but it would affect everyone in this section, including the patients. Alex examined the critical ward through the viewport again. Those containment pods, they maintain their own environment, right? Yes, they're self-contained life support systems. And the other patients, 2 Valori in stasis and an elder Mrixtian, all in sealed medical environments. Alex nodded. Then we temporarily flood this section with something the raiders can't tolerate, but won't harm the sealed environments. What about the medical staff? We have emergency brothers, called one of the staff from inside the ward, apparently able to hear their discussion through the damaged door. But such a tactic would only buy us minutes before the station's systems equalize. Minutes might be all we need, Alex said. He turned to Nira. How far is the nearest security response team? Nira closed her eyes briefly, ridges pulsing as she accessed the station's communication network. 3 minutes at standard response speed. That's our window then. Alex pointed to a maintenance shaft above them. Can we access the environmental controls from there? What followed was a rapid implementation of Alex's plan. Nira boosted him into the maintenance shaft, where he crawled to the local environmental control junction. Following her instructions through a communicator, he rerouted the atmospheric controls to her medical override. When the raiders returned, 8 heavily armed figures approaching the critical ward, Nira waited until they were fully committed to the corridor before implementing the atmospheric change. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The oxygen level plummeted while trace gases harmful to the raider species flooded the section. Their sealed armor provided some protection, but the sudden change caused enough confusion for Nira to engage them from an advantageous position. Alex dropped from the maintenance shaft behind the group, cutting off their retreat. Between his supporting fire and Nira's ferocious close combat skills, they held the raiders at bay until the security team arrived 3 minutes later, just as the environmental systems began to normalize. The aftermath found Alex sitting on an examination table in a secure section of the medical bay, watching as Nira's combat adaptations gradually receded. Her claws retracted, ridges flattened back to their normal configuration, and her silver eyes returned to their usual luminescence. The station director extends his gratitude, she informed him, reviewing his vital signs. The raiders have been detained, and all patients are secure. Good, Alex said simply, wincing slightly as she applied a regenerative patch to a burn on his arm, a grazing hit from one of the raiders' weapons. You fought well, Nira observed. Your tactical thinking was unexpected and effective. We humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. We're good at improvising. Nara's ridges pulsed with what he now recognized as amusement. "So I have observed." A moment of silence stretched between them, comfortable yet charged with unspoken questions. "Earlier," Alex finally said, "before the attack, you mentioned something about claiming me." Naira's hands stilled on his arm. "Yes. The Viraxian Guardian response includes a neurochemical bonding process. When activated, it creates a powerful protective instinct toward the claimed individual." "Is it permanent?" "It can be," she said carefully, "but it requires mutual acceptance. Without reciprocation, it will gradually fade once you no longer require my care." Alex studied her face. Alien yet increasingly familiar. And if it were reciprocated? Naira's ridges pulsed with a pattern he hadn't seen before, rapid, intense flashes of blue and violet. Then it would deepen into what humans might call a pair bond. "Viraxians mate for life, Alex Mercer." "That's quite a commitment for someone you've only known a few weeks," Alex said, though he couldn't deny the pull he felt toward her. Something beyond gratitude or attraction. "Viraxians recognize compatible life energies," Nira explained. "It is not a matter of time but of resonance. Your body heals remarkably under my care because on a cellular level, we are harmonious." Alex thought about Earth, now distant in more ways than one. His crew was gone, his mission ended. The future he had planned no longer existed. Yet here, in this unexpected place with this extraordinary being, new possibilities were emerging. "So what happens now?" he asked. Naira's lips curved in that rare smile. "Now you complete your recovery. The Galactic Accord will need to be notified of humanity's first official contact. There will be diplomatic considerations. And us." Alex pressed. "That," she said, her fingers gently tracing the healing wound on his arm, sending pleasant warmth through his body, "is for you to decide. I have made my claim, but the choice to accept or reject it is yours alone." Alex caught her hand, marveling at how alien it felt. 6 fingers, subtle texture differences, yet how right it seemed in his own. "I've always been drawn to exploration," he said thoughtfully, "discovering the unknown. It seems I have more to discover than I ever imagined." Naira's ridges pulsed with hope and something deeper, a promise of protection, partnership, and possibility. "Then let us discover it together," she said. Outside the viewport, the stars of Proxima Centauri glittered against the darkness. No longer distant and unreachable, but the beginning of a journey Alex Mercer had never anticipated, but now couldn't imagine refusing.